In this video, we'll cover how to use Morpholio Trace app. So if you never used the app before, or you have downloaded the app but you're confused about the various features that it has to offer, then this is the right video for you, because in today's video, we'll cover everything that you need to know to get started with Morpholio Trace. Let's begin with opening the app and have a real quick overview of the home screen. Now, at the top here, you can see different types of projects that we can create, either starting with a blank empty sheet, a custom preset template sizes. We can pull up the photo from the library or a picture that we like to trace over. We can import a PDF. We can also draw over 3D model, over the maps, and over the photograph that we take with iPad. And we can also join augmented reality session. And then at the bottom here is basically our projects tab. We can create new folders to organize the projects that we have. We can also do a multiple selection, and we can cancel the selection. We can duplicate, copy, do the typical file management type of stuff. And over here, we also have the settings panel. By default, the units over here are set to imperial, so change those to metric if that suits you. I also always use the stack layer option enabled. There's also a button over here for those of you who are left-handed that basically mirrors the menus in the drawing. Let's go ahead and create a new project. We can either very simply go and create a blank new empty sheet, but what I'll do instead is I'll go to this option over here and click blank, and that allows me to set the sizes. Now you can either select from the imperial. I'll go ahead with the ISO standard with A4, and I'll set the scale. I'll start with 1 to 200. So here we are in the main interface of the app. To the left we have the pen tools and pencils. To the top we have the drawing assist, and to the right we have layer properties. And there are some setting buttons over here and export buttons here. And we also have the indication of the scale. So let's begin with the brushes first. You can see here that there is different brushes that we have available. If we hold on to any of these fields, it'll bring up all the brushes, and there's only 10. If you click on them, you can choose which brush to place there, like so. So if I choose the pencil, which is here, I can substitute it with the fine liner if that's my preferred tool. And I can also click over here on different types of brushes. So we can have a dotted, we can have the dashed, and we can have the center line. And we can also change the size of these over here. Over here as well, we can control the opacity of the line. And there are further settings to increase the smoothness, which is basically the roundness of the line. The more smooth it is, the more kind of vectorized it will look like. And then of course we have the colors on this palette here. We can click on this button, and over here we have the palettes. There are different presets available, and we can also create our own. Okay, so let's undo all of these lines to get back to the clear page. You can do that with the 2-finger tap. You can redo the lines with a 3-finger tap. Okay, so now let's get into drawing something. I'll select a pencil for this. As you can see here, I'm currently drawing freehand, which is fine for some applications, but really as architects, we want a more controlled stroke. So for that, I'll enable a ruler tool. So this invokes this ruler, which has the increments in meters. It also matches this little scale bar at the corner here. And then what that allows us to do is to draw a perpendicular lines like so. You can also over here tap to toggle between the assisted lines and non-assisted. If you're away from the ruler, it'll create curvy lines, but if you're next to the ruler, it'll create a straight lines. We also have an option of other types of drawing assists, like this triangle, for example. There's an option to increase the angle or decrease it, or select it manually. There's also a tap option over here to just flip it. And conveniently, there's also a protractor that in this case we can probably use to draw some trees around this concept plan. How I can either use the drawing to move the protractor, or I can use the protractor itself to move around the drawing. You can use this tool over here to basically measure the footprint of the plan. Now, we do need to make sure that all the edges of this plan are sort of enclosed, and then we can set the scale using this little tool here. So say if we put 20 meters, so it rescales the whole sheet to fit the 20 meters of that building being drawn on the sheet like this. You can use this ruler again. So if it's 20 meters this way, it's about 10 meters that way. And we can also use this tool over here to measure the area. So if I drag and point this pointer to different rooms, it'll register the area of those rooms. So if I want to scale this down a little bit, so that I have more space for something else to draw. On the bottom of here, we can do that. And then over here, we have the 2-point perspective tool that we can set up. I still can access the ruler whenever I need to. So for example, if I need to figure out the center point of this plane, I can do that using the ruler tool, and then I can get back to my perspective tool. So another cool feature in Procreate is the stencil tool, where we can pick different presets or even create our own. For example, if I pick one of these trees over here, I can then kind of place it, mirror it if necessary, where I need it, and then pick the color for it, and then infill using the bucket tool over here. So the feature that we haven't touched upon are the layers. So the layer palette is over here. There's an option of 3 types of layer creation. The first one is just a blank layer, and you can see how the behavior of this layer is slightly different to that of the normal drawing apps, in that it does have this paper opacity slider over here. So it acts very much like a tracing paper. We can change the name of the layer here. We can select the color of the trace, the blending mode, and then the usual self-explanatory kind of options where we can delete, clear, the selection, scale, copy, and duplicate the layer. We can also add the underlay to this drawing. So for example, if I wanted to have a cool background, I could for example choose this sort of cardboardy texture here. And then I can, by holding it down, move it to the underside of our drawing like so. I'm not going to use it for this drawing, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer. Every time you need to delete a layer, make sure that you really want to do that, because you won't be able to undo it. And then finally, we have an option to place the text. Whenever we select any of these layers that we created previously, it will kind of zoom into them. And if I select the whole underlay drawing, it will zoom out the extent of it. I can also draw the door swings quite easily by selecting the protractor tool. And then over here, I have a choice of putting the radius of the door swing in meters. And I'll put that as, say, 1.2, because it's the entrance door. Alternatively, I can do it just manually like so, by pinching and zooming into the drawing. And then, as I did with the doors, I can use the ruler to determine the increments for the stair. Once I get a couple of the first steps in, I can either continue using the ruler, or I could duplicate the stair to save time. We can then share this drawing out, we can export it and, for print or presentation. So that's a wrap, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out some other videos on my channel as well. I focus mainly on the digital drawing for architects and interior designers, and I'll see you in the next video.